Today is November the 13th, 2014, and this is Kitty.
This covered me.
Oh, shit.
Kitty's a tank. Right, we'll start again. The day after tomorrow is Kitty and Joseph stayed last night, and Kitty has been occupying herself by writing a book. I can't decide. Kitty's scent of summer. Oh, Kitty's.
A lot of people would think, oh, did your mum push you to do it? And did she start applying? And I know that's how a lot of, teenagers get into it. But actually, it was something that I did quite privately. I just took the pictures. I did a lot of research, and I mean a lot of research. Bearing in mind, I was a big fan of the industry, and I always loved watching runway and things. So I just thought, well, I'd love to give it a go.
Kitty as a child loved dressing up. She was obsessed with clothes. She was obsessed with watching you get ready. And she would spend hours just watching you, blow drying your hair, putting your makeup on, to the point of I'd think, is this something that you really want to just sit and do? And I realised from a really small child, like 2 years old, she could stand in a queue to have her face painted, and it would be quite happy for an hour and a half, not a complaint. She would just literally stand and wait for it to be done. She absolutely loved anything to do with makeup, in her head, fashion, clothing, anything sparkly, hair. She was naturally just intrigued about everything: handbags, shoes, jewellery, makeup. She was just that way out.
And I remember one day I went to New Look, and my dress sense was quite advanced for my age at the time, and I was wearing this navy pinstripe suit with trainers and like a cropped white top, and I only went in to buy some tights on the off chance. And the girl at the till, she went, "We really love your style." She said, "Would you like to be like an ambassador and start being sponsored by New Look?" So I was like, oh my God, yeah. So we swapped details, and the next day I'd got my first bag of clothes, and I started doing content for New Look. And so I thought, well, in the meanwhile, if I can't do the actual modelling photo shoot side of things, well, I will start building up my social media at least, and having content and building some sort of presence on my Instagram to give myself some sort of professional look. And so that was my first thing, was the sponsorship with New Look. So I kind of did a little bit more influency stuff at the time, just to kind of get myself out there, get some images and some content, so that when maybe I was approached by other agencies or other people in the industry, they could see that I had something. It wasn't just a mirror selfie or a selfie just on my iPhone. It was, proper photos. So that was something that I did in the meanwhile. And then, like I said, I just started doing a bit more work promotionally for brands, and I did all sorts, from clothing to herbal tea. I did all sorts. And then I got accepted by this agency, and I went up and did my first shoot. So that's how it all kind of started.
Kitty's progressing like amazingly in the industry, and again, something that I didn't expect. It's nothing that, we've experienced in a family before. My sister did a little bit of modelling, but it was all fairly new to me. That watching her do London Fashion Week for the first time was incredible. I had the privilege of working from the premises while the fashion shoot was going on. They allowed me an area to be able to work and operate, doing my job, and just being behind the scenes and just watching the whole thing play out from a sort of spectator on the sidelines was really interesting, and just seeing how confident she was and how she knew what she was doing, which was, like, for me, it was so strange.
The first shoot that I took my mum to was the one with the agency. I couldn't go on my own because I needed to get there. But other than that, she hasn't really attended many of my shoots. I don't like to have my family there, at my work, it feels just strange, and also they've got their own commitments, but obviously she came to this one to support, see what it's all about. But yeah, that was the first shoot and her experience with me, but other than that, it would be great to see her come along on one of my recent shoots, because you know, so much has changed.
So the first time she did London Fashion Week, she worked with some amazing brands like So Human, and it was incredible. I mean, just the location itself was fantastic. It was the University of Fashion in London, and there were some of the biggest names backstage there in terms of their offices and their setups for their own sort of studios and their own workshops. So seeing names like Vivienne Westwood and all of these kind of international fashion designers at the time was quite incredible, to be honest. And just having that insight of how they set up these shows behind the scenes, and how people like the Fashion Council come round to monitor the models, just the whole thing, you know, there's a lot to it. I've worked in events all my life and media, and it was quite intriguing to see behind the scenes, really.
My first London Fashion Week experience was when I was 15 years old. I remember I'd just done a photo shoot. It was a really editorial shoot, and I had some great images from that. And what I did, I was really proactive. So I went onto the London Fashion Week schedule and I emailed nearly every single brand on the schedule, and I got a few responses, and one of them was from this brand from Spain called So Human, and they said, we would love to have you come and walk for us. Can you send all your details? Can you send a video of your walk? And that's what I did. And before I knew it, September had come and I was in London going for the fitting, and it was just like, wow, oh my God, I'm here. Yeah, so this was one of my first ever shoots, and it was for an agency that I had just joined at the time, and they wanted to have me very sporty, girl next door, you know, the straight hair, pin straight hair. At the time it was very, very long, wasn't it? Very healthy. Hey, it does make me cringe a little bit looking at them, but you know, you've got to start somewhere. The brows were looking very bushy.
I just don't know what you're criticising, personally.
Hey, we have to start somewhere. They wanted to have me look as young as I could to obviously appeal to the clients, although I still looked pretty old. Looking at it.
You do look about 20, I think.
Yeah, but it is, I think I was about 14 there, which is funny to think about.
I'd rather she did that than a lot of the stuff I've seen her doing.
Okay, so this is very commercial shots. Yeah. Obviously, I personally prefer editorial. It's a lot more artistic. There's a story behind them. I love all high fashion clothing. For me, I love commercial, and that's, you know, where the money is per se. But I like editorial. It feels a lot more involved and goes into it. This was this is probably, I think, my second or third shoot that I'd ever done. I styled it myself. Whether the outfit choice was the most appropriate at the time, I know in the industry they're very, obviously back in the day, Kate Moss, it was all, you know, at 14, 15 years old, she was doing Calvin Klein commercials, which again isn't appropriate, but that's a different time, isn't it, I suppose. And I was always told, naturally, you look older, you are older, you don't seem your age. So to me, I already dressed quite not elegantly. I mean, as much as that's a little bit, that's elegant with a side of,
beachwear.
Yeah, I worked out quite a lot back then. Like I said, I wasn't going to school, so I didn't have much else to do. And I was running quite a lot as well. But yeah, we ended up being front cover in a magazine in New York. So yeah, he's a really, really great photographer called Sheehan. I've shot with him a couple of times now. But yeah, I love this shoot. I really do. And I was really nervous at the time because I suffered with acne quite bad at the time. Do you remember? You know, I've always...
Yeah.
And I'd just been to Spain for 17 days, and in the sun it cleared up really, really nicely. So I kept on feeling really anxious that, you know, it would need editing and airbrushing, but actually, when I look back, my skin looks perfect, doesn't it? Considering how upset I felt about it on the day.
Again, are these the ones that were taken in the garden?
Yes, it was taken in a botanical garden. And I remember feeling a little bit like, oh, everyone's watching, because obviously it's not something that you see every day.
It was quite good though, because he took you to more secluded areas, didn't he?
Yeah, and obviously there was toilets to get changed, but that's the thing, it's not all as glamorous as what you think it would be. I was quite sweaty and I had to keep touching up my own makeup at the time, because that was something that we'd arranged privately. But yeah, it's great. What do you think? What do you think about it?
Well, I think I said at the time, I thought it was a bit stunning to have the grey suit and your bra, but
I think
if that's what they were looking for at the time, but to me it's all this business about sexualising everything. Why they feel the need to do it when they could have put an elegant piece of clothing underneath.
To some extent I agree, but also it's something I felt I had to do as someone starting out in the industry and being told I looked older.
Exactly.
It was also a high fashion shoot as well. That's more editorial with it being a magazine shoot. So I kind of wanted to do that business kind of, as I loved my suits, didn't I? And I had, that really nice pinstripe suit, the blue navy one.
I don't know what they'd say if you turned up in the office wearing that.
Yeah, definitely not. I'd think HR would pull me in. But I kind of just wanted to make it a little bit edgy. Oh, I don't know, but I got the cover, so that's what matters. They clearly liked it. Oh, okay. Yes, this is very different. So this was another shoot that I did in Sheffield. I kept it quite local, didn't I suppose, just because, well, I didn't feel the need to go to
London. It was the makeup.
Is it 60s?
Well, if you remember, the lady who did it was one of the Soviet countries, and to me
Ukrainian.
This epitomised their style of makeup, because when you go to medical conferences and there are the Soviet style doctors there, for example, you can tell them a mile off. That is how they make themselves up, whereas ours is different.
I don't know, like I say, I don't really know what you're referring to, but I know that it was, again, more high fashion. It's not your casual, it's not your typical JD, shoot, is it? Or commercial new look.
The gloves.
That was random, I must say, in the blue background. It's all going on. It's all going on. I don't really know what but the photographer's great. She's called Xenia and she's really lovely and really talented. She's a model herself, so she actually made me feel really comfortable that day.
She was a nice lady.
Really lovely.
Yeah.
So this is a photo shoot that I did in Scarborough. I asked Sheehan, who I did the New York magazine cover with, if he wanted to come down in the summer and get some shots. I think in between doing the paid for jobs, it's important to keep yourself,
in practice,
and try new things. And I styled this as well. This is more my type of style, isn't it? The shirt.
It's very nautical, actually. It looks as if you're just climbing off a yacht.
Yes, I wanted to give off rich auntie on a yacht vibes.
You wish.
That's what I wanted to. Oh, I wish, yeah. So this was during London Fashion Week. Yeah.
I must admit, when I saw it, I thought, Jesus, wet to an earth.
But I tell you what, in the fashion industry, that's the coolest effing outfit I've ever put in my body. And everyone, as they were coming out, they asked to get pictures with me. Although the only thing that made me feel a bit uncomfortable at the time, because I was quite young, obviously nobody knew this at the time. I just was like, oh my God, I'm at London Fashion Week. I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut if anyone asks, but I'm here. It was a little bit of a thong back.
It certainly was. I mean, look how high it is at the front.
I know. I did have a designer cut my pants off whilst that was on me in front of the other models. So we were lining up to go out on the runway. Slightly dropped and he cut them off. They were quite nice pants as well, I must say. In front of everyone.
And all I could ask her was, how could you see through that?
I couldn't. So I really couldn't look through it. With obviously all the lights on the sequins reflecting off, I had a bit of I've not really experienced that before, but a bit of a panic attack. You lose all your vision. You can't smell any. It's all quite restricted. You can't breathe properly. No. It's hot. It's just uncomfortable. And I said to the designer, I was like, please, I said, I really would prefer if you could come down with me. And he said something like, oh, it's okay, you can see through your confidence. And I was like, bloody well can't. But yeah,
Yes.
it was incredible. It looks so cool. And I remember somebody messaging me saying, I was just scrolling on Instagram and I thought this was Kim K, because people didn't know that I was really at this London Fashion Week. And I said, no, it's me. And I think I've never felt more cool, I don't think, than I did there.
Well, I would ask myself the question, why was it designed?
Just because
just like
that's what I say to you. It's not, fashion isn't always about being worn. It's about how it makes people feel. Like with art, why people say, well, why was that made? What, you know, I wouldn't have that in my living room, or, you know, I don't get it. And that's fine if you don't get it, or if you wouldn't have it in your living room. But if it evokes an emotion and it makes you feel something, whether that's confused, you know, wow, that's amazing, or whatever, or I hate it, then it's something, isn't it? And that's the whole point of it. It's someone's thought of an idea and put it into a piece, which, like I say...
But it's fashion, isn't it, which implies clothing, which implies wearing it to go somewhere.
And it's not to go somewhere, just it's like makeup, you know, it's like, it's all very subjective, isn't it?
Take your word for it.
Oh, that was the one in Marrakesh.
Yes.
That was at the Riyadh that we were staying at for a brand. It was a swimwear company.
I love this. This is so natural.
Yeah, well, it's not really that natural, Nana, because
know.
I'm wearing a long dress in the pool.
Yes, I am aware.
With a full face of
I am,
makeup on.
yeah.
I was kind of directing the shoot on my end because they they didn't fly out for this. They kind of put it in the hands of myself and the team from Marrakesh. And I said, typically it was a more commercial brand, so all the shots that they had were very commercial. And I said, well, I asked the brand, can we make it more editorial? Because on its own, respectfully, and I say this really respectfully, this was quite a cheap feeling and looking dress. And the way that we styled it with all the jewellery and the setting and the way that it was photographed and edited by the photographer makes it look, with the posing, so much more expensive. The way that it was shot and styled and how it was posed in, I think, makes it look so much more expensive, which I think they were really grateful for, because I will be honest, I'm not going to shoot something that I don't feel comfortable in, that I don't think it looks right. I will always speak out. I know that it's quite controversial to do that as a model because you're just there to be a coat hanger, but I would want to have, you know, I would want an opinion if it maybe wasn't always the...
No, I think you
And I
need
think-
to make your own case about it and be how you want to look.
Absolutely, and it went so well. It just was executed really beautifully. Oh yes, that was a ski shoot that I'd organised and brought everyone together. We had two photographers from Pretty Little Thing. We had a stylist who had worked on a lot of, you know, commercial shoots. And as a snowboarder, it's not often that you can get, you know, cool snowboarding shots. It doesn't really have the same effect as you can, you know, when you've got ski wear and all the fitted ski wear. It doesn't really, snowboarding stuff's all quite baggy, isn't it? So all the styling is quite retro, it's different shots. So that was inspired by Kim Kardashian. She did a photo shoot for one of her Skims collections, and it was like a retro ski wear kind of thing. It was like very pastel, so I really did take inspiration from the makeup in that.
I remember it made me laugh because the snow's obviously been put on afterwards, hasn't it?
Oh yeah, so
I didn't think she'd be frozen to death sitting
we
on
were
the
really,
snow.
we were sat in, we were on the group chat and we were like, how do we like execute this? How do we execute this? Because I want it to be, should we get fake snow, and we were figuring out how to do it. Do we get a backdrop? Anyway, on the day we just said...
That's just a sheet thing, is it?
No, it's not. That's just the
Yeah.
background that it's been edited and smoothed and make sure that it looks seamless. Whereas that is me just sat on that plain
sheet.
background. And I remember she did it there and then, and she had an example, and it was all the Alps in the background. Sorry, and look, there's even like fake snow under my boots because I didn't want it to look fake. And where my bum is, it's like this really fine. You can see the snow.
Yeah, it is. It's clever.
And where my hands are, and it actually looks pretty realistic.
So like there's that that's a long coat.
So we've just shot the third look, and we've got this gorgeous two-piece from Doyen the Label. It's very like military, but again keeping that traditional British into the look.
I suppose as opposed to the other looks, it's very, very feminine.
And it's the more
and
structural,
structured.
whereas a few of the others we've got a bit more relaxed.
Oversized.
But it really fits with the story, so we really like this, and the colours are perfect.
Still keeps really powerful posing, because we still want it to have that kind of boss, you know, feel to it. But again, we felt it hard initially with it being really feminine. So I really do like the
Yeah, it
car
works
shots
really well
because
in
it
the
really
car.
keeps that really powerful, feminine but powerful
Feel to it. Yeah.
Growing up, I had a really normal childhood, really lovely. I lived in a beautiful house in, Kirkella, and, it was as lovely and as a cliche picture perfect as you can imagine. I went to my nana's quite a lot. We had a really lovely relationship, my nana and granddad's. They would often film our childhood, and it's really lovely to look back on those videos.
She used to interact really well with her brother, bigger brother. And I remember the time when they used to run round and round and round here, and Joseph would be going, ah, and Kitty would be going, ah, at the top of her voice. And from there she went to become quite an extrovert in her own little way.
Do the nails and the makeup and I read a book.
Come on then, let's have a look at it. In fact, at school she was always such a clever little thing that it worked out badly for her is quite sad.
Bullying, and the word is bullying, there's no other way about it. Her form of bullying was purposely excluding, creating scenarios where they could exclude Kitty, knowing that was her insecurity, and it was blatantly being done. And some of the parents knew it was being done and they didn't do anything about it, and Kitty suffered that for long and prolonged periods of time, and that really, really, really started to impact her. It all accumulated in secondary school in a video being uploaded to social media where by a boy and a girl, where they basically incited her to go and kill herself. That went public for a short period of time and then it was removed. The school didn't take it seriously at all.
I would wake up in the morning with a washing machine feeling in my stomach. From the moment that I woke up to the minute I went to bed, it just wouldn't stop. I started, my mouth wouldn't stop chattering all day with anxiousness. I always felt cold because I was just constantly, it was my body like almost just fighting for itself. I was constantly on edge. It'll be 2 years ago yesterday. I was in Hull Royal for taking quite a severe overdose. Obviously that was the lowest point, that I didn't think, I'd had depression for years by this point, and I didn't really trust myself that it would get as bad as it did.
Well, we had this phone call to say, to say that she'd taken an overdose. And I thought I was strong enough to cope with it. But I spent the whole day sitting in the conservatory just crying. I couldn't function. And it was that brought home to me that mental health of one person in a family impacts on everybody. A granddad as well, he was absolutely distraught. And I remember going to see her in the hospital. And I knew then that the person who was dealing with it in the hospital just hadn't seen the reality. I think they thought it was just a cry for help.
And I needed something to look towards. I felt like I was nothing. I felt from how school had left me, I felt like nothing. These people had already bullied me out of multiple schools, and I just felt like a nothing, like a no one. I didn't have friends, so I felt the need to constantly post on social media, and that's when I was like, well, I'll give modelling a go. I had a few. I was quite tall at the time, and you know, I had some comments being made. I had really bushy eyebrows, and someone said you should give it a go, and I just stuck with me, and I gave it a go.
After the first couple of ones, I was quite impressed with the way she dealt with it, and it obviously helped her and built on her, you know, own levels of self-security. And then as it grew, again, as she went further afield, it's worrying because you don't know how these young women are being dealt with. But she's managed. She seems to have coped all right. I'm sure there are things that have happened that she hasn't told me about. But maybe one day we'll find out.
At first, I was really concerned that it would exacerbate Kitty's mental health issues and that it would deepen some of the behaviours that she has when she's on a triggered sort of period of depression. But actually, it's quite the opposite. For some bizarre reason, and I really still don't understand it, Kitty is really happy and really engaged, and I don't know how she does it, but for some reason her mental health is parked.
All I can say about Kitty in summing up is I'm so proud of her. Her parents' marriage failed when she was quite little, and it impacted on both her and her brother. They've come through it, and they've turned into lovely human beings, caring, and I can't say how proud I am of her. She's a little gem.